Hello everybody, welcome back once again. It's Tony with you, having a look at more high fantasy, sword and sorcery films out of my collection. Last two videos have been good. We've had a look at some good stuff. This video, I'm going to hit it up with the 3 films of a trilogy and then 2 films within one other franchise. So let's hit it off with one of the high rollers, and we're probably a lot of this sort of stuff started off is with Tolkien. If you know Tolkien's work, you know he's the sort of godfather, the don of a lot of this kind of stuff. And where's it all start off? Well, it starts off with the Hobbit. When these got announced that they were being done after the Lord of the Rings trilogy, now I love that trilogy. I think it's fantastic. Probably one of my favourite trilogies that's ever been done. I was expecting high things from this trilogy. Now, bearing in mind the book The Hobbit is really small in comparison to the 3 volumes of The Lord of the Rings. I don't know how they squaws 3 films out of that one book. And the subject matter of these, if you've read the book's extremely good. The problem is with the trilogy, as we'll start going through the other 2 as well, is it misses significant things out there. Now, I don't know if that's for time, or they thought they could get more story out of a specific thing out of this that wasn't added, and get more film out of it. I don't know. But for me, they were a little bit lackluster. Now, the first one I enjoyed. It's a bit of a slow burn, as with anything Tolkien related, and for what it was entertaining. And then along came, not that film, I've got them upside down. Along came Desolation of Smaug, which for me is a bit of a snooze fest. It's okay within its own right. And it is what it is. Now, towards the end of the book, if you ever read The Hobbit, the chapter The Battle of the Five Armies obviously leads up to a big thing. So when the Battle of the Five Armies came out, I was expecting huge things from this, and it drags its heels to get to the sort of finale. And when it gets there, it is enjoyable, but it takes so goddamn long. I do enjoy the films as a trilogy. I do enjoy them. Do I go back to them that often? No, not really. There's flaws with them. You know what I mean? They're not as good as it's not as good as the Lord of the Rings, and it should have been in its own right, because the story's very, very good. But there's one sort of major flaw within this, and if you know the book, if you've read the book, it's the story of Tom Bombadil. And the story of Tom Bombadil is a pivotal part of the story within everything, and he's sadly missing out of this. Now, whether they thought they could get a film out of Tom Bombadil, I don't really know. But it was odd for him not to be in there, for a character that was as big as a character that he is in the book. I don't know. It's nice to see the Green Wizard turn up in here. He's at one with nature. That's pretty cool, because that was Sylvester McCoy. Sylvester McCoy played Doctor Who in the 80s. He was my Doctor Who, so to see him pop up in this franchise, that was great for me. But as a whole, the franchise is a little bit of a letdown. It's enjoyable, but just nowhere near as good as Lord of the Rings. And then we have a look at 2 films in another franchise now, that again were a bit under the radar. They came out, people didn't seem to take to it that well. The first one being Snow White and the Huntsman. I have no problems with this film. I actually quite enjoy it. My only issue with the film is that it's got Kristen Stewart in it. she's only got one way of acting, and that's straight-faced, straight-laced, boring as fuck. She's the same in goddamn everything. Why they thought she would work in this, I have no idea. They could have put somebody else in. Who? I don't know. But Kristen Stewart for me just wasn't the right person for this. But Charlize Theron as the witch, it does really well. I think she was probably the right actor to put in there. And Chris Hemsworth as the Huntsman, and again, he does a good job. You know what I mean? He's quite believable. But the story as a whole is great, especially when the dwarves pop up in it. When the dwarves come in, that's really good. There's some great British actors amongst them lot. But then surprised me that they did a sequel, and the sequel is The Huntsman Winters War. For me personally, this is a better film. Because it tries to get away from the whole sort of Snow White thing. You get told about it briefly at the beginning of the film, and then it irks off on another angle altogether. And basically, it's about Chris Hemsworth, and about how he became the badass that he is. Initially, he was on the bad side, and then he went to the good side. For me personally, this is a better film. As a high fantasy kind of film, it's way better than Snow White and the Huntsman. The dwarves in this one, again, a British cast. Rob Brydon pops up in this one, who's a British comedian and television show host and other things like that, comedic actor. Nick Frost pops up as well in this one as the other dwarf, and he's absolutely fucking brilliant in it. So for me, the second film always stood out better than the first did. But again, two really good films. If you've never seen, definitely give them a spin. So the 5 for this episode: The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug, and The Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies, and then Snow White and the Huntsman, and The Huntsman's Winters War. Okay, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. Take care. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.